You may remember the last video I uploaded on this channel where I basically made the case that most people should play on console, even though PC gaming is better for a number of reasons, one of them being cost, the other being simplicity. The controller does everything, the fact that everything simply works. And it still is the case. For example, this is, let me take you along here. This is MVP Baseball 2005 on the original Xbox. Yeah, it's a replacement case because this was all broken, but you get the game disc right here. Load it up, and in a minute or so, we're gonna be playing the 2005 season of the MLB like it was 2005. The consoles are such a great time capsule, especially for sport ball games that don't age very well on PC. Another example is, I gotta turn this down before it starts making noise. Another example is, on the Xbox 360, you had the 2006 World Cup game that was better on the 360 version, and it wasn't better on any other, the other platforms, it just straight up sucked. It was the 5th gen version, the same version you got on PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, even the PC. So sport ball games don't get good treatment on the PC, sorry, as either. And it's also the case for the PS4 now, the PS3, and the 360, and of course any console, that these are going to age better than their PC counterparts. A 2005 PC is just a hunk of junk these days, but you can get a lot of use out of a 360, same goes for a PS3, and even a PS4. It's got a lot more relevance today than a 2013 PC. And I think that's just the nature of the consoles. If you keep them clean, if you keep their thermal paste in check, if the fans are running, the discs are running, these consoles are going to run as well. And they'll do so to the end of time if you stay on top of them.
Batting cleanup, Nomar Garciaparra.
And the case of the time capsule is very telling. Many old games are pretty tricky to run correctly on a modern PC. Remember that MVP game? Well, technically it did get a PC release. You can't find it being officially distributed anywhere, and good luck getting it to work if you do get it. You're better off emulating the console version.
He's going back at the track, the wall.
Which, by the way, I've done with the PSP version, the PS2 version, and I don't think the Xbox and GameCube versions work yet. But that PSP version is my go-to mobile game. That when I'm playing something on my phone, that's it. And I'm not much of a sports ball video game player in the first place, but this is pretty universal with old games, like the original Call of Duty or Max Payne, which often need community patches to fix it and get it to play up to modern displays and to look and run well. But in other cases, if you want to play GSE Game World's first ever FPS, Venom Codename Outbreak, and you have a modern Nvidia PC, good luck. This game and many other old games' graphics are broken on Nvidia hardware with no easy fix other than just having a secondary system with a cheap AMD graphics card running them. Maybe an iGPU could do the trick if you have that. A non-Nvidia card was the easiest fix to these graphical bugs for me. But going back to the sports ball games, they are by far the best example of a console making more sense for anyone with an interest in them, because so many of them just never make it to the PC. On another hand, if they do make it to PC, they can be the last gen version until a couple of years into the new console generation. FIFA ran on 8th gen code on PC until FIFA 23. That's 2 whole years of last gen gaming for PC players. And this isn't new, by the way. It has been happening in every generation. And to add insult to injury, PC didn't get any of the World Cup FIFA games since 2006. And even then, PC got the 6th gen version, while 360 got the best version. What sucks about this even more is that PC emulators still can't play that version yet. You need a real deal Xbox 360 to play it, because it's not even backwards compatible on the newer Xboxes, because who would want to relive one very specific tournament that the whole world's eyes are glued to for a couple of months while it's happening? I'm that kind of a sports ball game player. I like buying the game of a season that my team was awesome in or a tournament that I really loved. In terms of playability, thankfully, the PlayStation 3's emulator, RPCS3, can get you a pretty satisfactory experience if you want to play the 2010 and 2014 World Cups. But it gets worse for other sports, like baseball. If you like that, you're out of luck because MLB The Show hasn't ever gotten a PC release, and you can try emulating the PS3 games, which were really damn good sports games, but most don't emulate well yet. Or you could settle for the awful gacha game that is MLB Rivals. Don't. Don't. It's a mobile game that you can play on PC. It's absolutely not worth it. If you're playing sports games and old games, and the consoles play them, get the consoles. It's that easy.
That is just the nature of the console itself. The console lends itself very, very well to just working no matter when in history it's working in. Ultimately, for me, that's the main value proposition of the console. But there is something else that we need to add to the equation, which is the conclusion to that video where I basically just said, play on console unless you know you want to play on PC, and you know exactly what I mean by that.
Some of you are probably screaming this at the screen right now, but it also goes both ways. There's some games that you just can't get an experience of any kind from a console.
So go back in time a little bit, and I'm chatting with this buddy about this video. I'm working up the ideas, I'm articulating in my head, and because he plays games, I know I can pitch them to him and see how they sound and kind of get a feel for the topic. And coincidentally, he was looking into getting a new PC. And I told him what I told you guys. Just get a console, dude. Because what he wanted to buy was a pre-built Alienware, because he liked PC gaming, but the idea of building a PC, it just didn't interest him. It is what it is. I think it's awesome, but he wasn't too much into building a PC himself. So I just say, hey man, just get the parts and I'll build it for you. Just don't get a pre-built. Either get a console or build the parts. I will not respect you if you buy a pre-built. Those were my words exactly. So he put his money where my mouth was, and he bought all the parts he needed. Great machine. See, he was coming from an NVIDIA 1080 Ti set in SLI with an Intel 7700K in his old system, and that system wasn't working at all, and a PS4. So he went up to a AMD Ryzen 7 9800 X3D with a 9070 XT. So he went full AMD for this build. He just spent hours talking to ChatGPT and Gemini and concluded that this was the best for him. And it made sense because when I asked him, why can't you play on console? He says, well, my favorite game isn't on console. It's Total War. And this is exactly what I meant by, if you want to play on PC, you know you want to play on PC. There's just something about playing on PC that makes it the clear option for you. For example, somebody who wants to play Total War Rome 2 Emperor Edition, which is, I just googled this, but this is not, and the game still sells for $60, which means people are buying it at that price. And what good is a console that somebody wants to play this? You just can't. It's not on console. So we end up building the PC. All the parts get here. I built it, and it was a little tricky to set up, and he got very frustrated. I remember this. And the reason is, when I had assembled the PC and breadboarded it and everything and set it up to the TV, he didn't have a reliable wired keyboard and mouse setup. We were using wireless Logitech stuff, which was fine, but I wanted something more reliable, and we weren't getting a responsive keyboard at first. So we thought maybe something was wrong with the motherboard, and I had to go fetch another keyboard. And we were also displaying on a TV. And if you know anything about through HDMI, and if you know anything about HDMI, there's a handshake that goes on to display the image. And we weren't getting an image. So something seemed like it was off. And the motherboard was lighting up its air lights. Something felt like it was wrong. So spent all day trying to get this thing to work. And eventually he says, you know what? Take it home. You've got all your tools there. You've got other parts you can swap and, try things out. And he lets me take the PC back home, where we do eventually get everything to work, and I get to test it. Now, I have to come clean. I did sway him toward getting AMD parts, mainly because when it comes to AMD versus Intel, I think if you're playing games, an X3D CPU just goes a long way in making your experience better and more seamless. And on the other end, I have been more compelled by Radeon graphics in this generation for most people. Unless you're going for the most high-end, I think AMD has just brought their A game in this generation. And I'm running NVIDIA now on my personal PC, which is right here, you can see. And I did change a case. I used to have a Streetcom, but that's beside the issue. I set this PC up, and it just chews through all the games and all the tests I put it through. AMD's new 9070 XT is a wonderful, magnificent card, and I really missed the Radeon Adrenalin driver. It is so much more complete than what NVIDIA is doing with the NVIDIA app. The overlays you get with AMD, just the versatility of the driver app itself. I think AMD has a leg up there. The enhanced sync is so good. The fluid motion frames is kind of like getting a native lossless scaling, really. I think lossless scaling is a little better, but having it integrated into the driver without having to launch a separate app is just very handy. And I think that PC was incredible. It really reminded me of the excitement of somebody who hasn't had a PC, a good PC to play on in a long time, and finally gets their hands on one. Because when I give this guy his PC, he is all over it. He said he'd get a new 4K display, OLED display for Assassin's Creed Shadows. He just, because he really wants to play that game. No judgment, he couldn't wait. He was modding his Total War build, just buying new games, trying everything, and it kind of reminded me of how exciting PC gaming is for somebody who's excited about PC gaming itself. And this was the case right here. If you're excited about upcoming games, I still stand by just recommending a console because you'll spend less and get a very similar experience. These consoles these days are very, very good at providing 60 FPS experience at pretty good resolutions, and a PC that matches consoles is still ridiculously expensive. This guy spent $2,500 on this PC, so it wasn't cheap at all. You could have bought 4 consoles with that. If you look at, if a lot of your attention goes into the things that you can do on PC instead of the games themselves, the upcoming games, I think, yeah, you should play on PC. You obviously have to have the willingness to troubleshoot and the openness to things not always working. But if you have that, if you have the patience, yeah, PC gaming is absolutely where it's at. It was very exciting for me to run path tracing on Cyberpunk on my friend's machine, to test Stalker 2 at the highest settings, at native resolution, running FSR 4, which is comparable to DLSS at this point. I think it looks, well, it does look a little blurrier than DLSS to me. There's far less artifacting with FSR 4. AMD's frame gen is also more natural looking, while NVIDIA's frame gen garbles a little bit. It does basically optical flow between frames. I think AMD's frame blending, while it doesn't always look as clean as the optical flow, again, the artifacts are worse on the NVIDIA cards. They just use more AI apparently. I think it's still a good time to play on PC. I think this is what this video is all about. Just think about the games you want to play, and there's so many good games to play. In a time where we have a lot of outrage in the internet, a lot of people being upset over the state of gaming, I still think that games are, if you're in the PC gaming space, if you're in the console gaming space, I think it's just the cost of entry that's too high. But the experiences are still very, very good. I think the negativity is overblown, and we just see a shift. Console gaming and PC gaming are becoming a premium form of gaming, while the casual space is being filled up by mobile games. Obviously, the main concern people have is cost. It costs a lot to this day to get into console gaming. It costs a lot even more to properly get into PC gaming. And I think what we're seeing here is a shift in the entire market. It was kind of happening last console generation and towards the beginning as well, where we see that a massive amount of casual gaming is done on mobile. I remember walking into the post office, or the courier's office, because it's just a thing, I'll call it a post office, and seeing the box guy sitting in the corner, absolutely wrecking folks playing an FPS on mobile, playing on the touchscreen even. He was absolutely ripping everybody apart. He was rocking it, and that's when it clicked for me on that side, where casual gaming has now gone over to mobile, and console and PC gaming is now premium. This is it's the way the wind has shifted in the gaming space, and I don't love it. I think a low barrier to entry to games makes so many things better. It makes the industry more reliable, makes games. I think having a lower cost of entry is very important so that the big games, the games that we want, get funded, get finished, get brought across the finish line with polish, and that not everything is a games as a service gotcha game that just absolutely wrecks people's pockets and is unfulfilling in my opinion, and it's a drug on your screen. I like more purpose-driven gaming, and that part I am concerned about. But if you're in console gaming, if you're in PC gaming, it's still a very good time to be doing that. And that's all I got for you now. Big thank you to everyone who watches the channel, especially the folks in the CIA. You guys are the backbone of everything that I can do here. It's thanks to you. So take good care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'm looking into various topics, so I don't know what the next one's going to be about, but I've got a lot of videos in the back of my mind, and they're going to be coming out. So cheers.